Hey friends, thanks for hanging out with me again today. I'm going to do a page that's very similar to a few pages that I have already posted where I am starting with watercolor, and I'm going to just try to vary my technique a little bit. I am making smaller pockets of color to begin with. I really enjoy this process of starting with watercolor and just playing around. So this is something that anybody can do. It's very simple, very easy. Doesn't require any kind of skill that a child could do this. So the first step in this process is just to fill the page with color. Watercolor dries pretty quickly. But if you don't want your colors to blend, just move around the page a little bit so that each color has enough time to dry before you put a color right next to it. Unless you want that, just know that if they're both wet, they're going to blend together. So that would be a different effect. I'm trying to make a little bit more defined color boundaries. But I don't mind if they overlap just a little bit. You can see the green and blue did right there. Now the orange and green those are both secondary colors. So you have to be careful about that as far as watercolor goes. And when you mix secondary colors together, they do tend to make brown. And if that's not what you're going for, you just have to be careful about that. Now, once your watercolors are all dry, the next step is to take a permanent marker, a Sharpie or alcohol marker. With markers, you just want to be aware of what you're using. If it's a water-based and you are going to add anything wet to it, that sometimes will give you some smearing. So I like to start with permanent markers, and then I get my acrylic markers out. So these are paint markers. So they have the little ball inside that you shake up and a nib that you press down to prime it. I like the way it flows. And so I guess step 3 would to be just start filling in patterns with colors. This time I didn't use a whole lot of black. Sometimes I start with just taking thinner lines of black to create a texture, but I went all color this time. I think I did add a little black at the end, but When you're looking for patterns, I have been really on the lookout for patterns I see around the house or when I'm shopping, so that I can have little references for when I just don't know quite what to put in what space. I try not to overthink it. Just think about different shapes. Think about triangles and rectangles and maybe something new you haven't tried. I love dots. There's something very, I don't know, satisfying to me about dots. Just remember, this is all about play. Picasso said, "Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up." Have you ever been around children like 2, 3 years old and you give them a blank piece of paper and a crayon and they scribble all over it and they are so proud of it. They are like, "Here, mommy, look at my beautiful artwork." And you put it on the fridge and you say, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Good job." That's the kind of like inhibition that I want to get back to when I'm in my creative process. Now, I'm still mindful of what I'm doing and I learn and grow in skill and technique. But as far as just being fearless, it's just art. It's just for fun. So have fun. This kind of art, abstract art, is so forgiving because there's not really like a true objective standard as far as like if you're trying to draw a realistic bird and you're trying to make it look like a photograph almost, well, you can measure that. You can be like, well, you're way off, or wow, that looks like the real thing. But with abstract art, you don't even have to know what the end of your art is going to look like. You just get to make it up as you go along, and it's fun because you're kind of surprised at the finished product just as much as anybody else. And so just have fun. I really love using this metallic silver marker because when you're all finished, as you move your page around, you get that reflective quality about it. So if you get a set, make sure you play with your gold and silver. It's a lot of fun. So if you watched my last video, I hope you watched this one because I learned something about Mod Podge. I got some smearing in my last video, and as I looked back actually at the video, I realized that because I had poured a glob right on and moved it around too much, I overworked it, and the Mod Podge kind of re-wetted some of the paint, and that's why I ended up getting smearing. So I learned from my mistake, so hopefully I can help you avoid the same thing. And so when you work with Mod Podge, just layer it really lightly and check your sponge. If you are getting some color picked up, just switch it around and do it a little more dabby. Is that a word? Dabby, yes. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you're inspired to go and make some art.